Hello, my name is Gray.
And my name is Crystal.
And this is Busty Asian Beauties, a supernatural commentary podcast where I, someone who has seen this show several times,
And I, someone who only knows the show through social media, discuss every single episode of Supernatural from start to finish. Also, we're both Asian.
both Asian. For today's episode, we will be discussing Season 4, Episode 14, Sex and Violence. Written by Catherine Humphries, directed by Charles Beeson.
I know this isn't that bad of an episode, but I just had the most horrific time forcing myself to watch it.
Okay, that is a very, very nice segue to a very big announcement we're about to
Yeah!
Crystal had a rough time watching this episode, and now we're going to do a completely different podcast, and we're taking a break
Podcast
from
for 3
Popeye
months.
For 3 weeks.
Bye, everyone! Sayonara, you weeaboo shits! But, no, okay. We are taking a 12-week break on BabPod because I'm insane, and I begged Gray to do a Good Omens podcast with me because I can think of nothing else in my waking days. It haunts me forever and ever. And we can't run 2 podcasts at once because this is like a 10-hour-a-week commitment for like each of us separately. So we're leaving in the middle of season 4. Maybe if Cass was in this episode, this wouldn't have happened. But you know what? He wasn't. So
Yeah. And we'll see Cass in 12 weeks. Bye, Cass!
But, okay, so the name of our new podcast is Rubbish and Probably a Podcast. We have substituted the F slur in the original book for the word podcast. It will not be on this podcast feed. It'll be on another podcast feed. So if you just like look up Rubbish and Probably a Podcast, hopefully it'll show up for you on the Spotify's and the Google Podcasts and the whatever. But
Yes.
We're sticking to our same Tumblr and email account and Ko-fi for anyone who wants to chat with us about Good Omens. Oh,
Yes.
Also, we are finally doing the switcheroo, which I've always desired, which is where I've seen the show multiple times, and Gray only knows about it from social media, so...
I don't even know about it from social media. I know it about
You know it from me screaming and crying.
Yes. So it'll be a really fun experience for me. And for you, hopefully. If it's not, it's gonna be so miserable.
I mean, yeah, because... It is fully an act of charity you're doing for me.
Also,
you should put this on your tax returns.
Exactly. And also, this is a wonderful opportunity for you to show some leadership skills because you're going to be like doing the like hosting of this podcast, which I'm very excited about. God.
So true.
When we do our intro, you're going to be the first to speak. Are you excited about that in any way, shape, or form?
Oh, yeah, of course. It's all I've ever dreamed of ever since I was a little girl.
Yeah. I am now the co-host, and you are the host of this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true. Well, there will be a trailer where we state more things, I suppose, so look out for that. Back to this fucking show.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that bad, but to really get you into the mindset of how horrible it was to watch, I started watching at 9 p.m. and I couldn't get myself to finish until 2 a.m. And the things that I did in order to avoid finishing watching this episode, like got a lot of water and snack refills, talked to my mutual Jeb on Tumblr about Good Omens, watched a 13-minute Mitski video explaining how she wrote the song Bug Like an Angel. I opened Pocket Frogs for the first time in 3 weeks to play it. I opened Disco Elysium for the first time in 2 months to play it. I also downloaded a game from itch.io that Danica's friend made and then played all of that. And I watched an 18-minute Good Omens line reads compilation. And only after that 18-minute video of Good Omens did I have the energy to finish the last 6 minutes of Sex and Violence.
I mean, this episode is not that bad, but it is one of those episodes that
hates women so much it's unreal.
Hates women so much it's unreal. And also, like, I think we do a good job in this podcast not talking about Wincest and the Wincest shippers of the world.
Yeah, but, like, this episode was, like, a huge win for them, I have to say.
I would say, though, that every episode is probably a huge win for those people because, like, to them, everything is, like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you're that level, I'm not going to continue that sentence. It's way too mean. But
this is just because Richard Siken is, like, people think that Wincest is okay because he's out here doing good PR work for the evils.
Is he?
But anyway.
I blocked him.
For real.
I am of the opinion that Richard Siken's Twitter account is, I need to apply the same philosophy to it, which I apply to TikTok.
To any other.
Which is, yeah. Which is that if it's good enough to be seen by me, there will be a person who shows it to me in some way. If the tweet is not good enough to be seen by me, the middleman or the middlemen and women and non-binary people of the world will not show it to me. They will feel no need.
Yeah.
And by middlemen,
anyway,
I do mean
I'm not
my Tumblr
actually
mutuals.
mad at Richard Siken because we all knew it already. But, like, yeah. It was nicer when it was easier to forget.
Man, I don't give a shit. I really don't give a shit. It's just, like, people were adding me. Like, people were fucking messaging me, like, Gray, don't you love Supernatural and Richard Siken? Have you heard about this thing? And I'm like, look at me. I have heard about it. You are also the same person who messaged me about Misha Collins coming out as straight, asking if I've heard about it. I've heard about it all. So don't fucking go to my house and tell me and ask me if I've heard about these things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So true.
Yeah.
I mean, at least he said I can guess the T-boy part, but what is swag? That was at least a good sentence.
Anyway, this episode...
Yeah.
What is going on inside Catherine Yumpress's head?
I really think it was just like, well, we need there to be a twist. Like, it can't just be like a hot woman.
Here's the thing.
But, like, why is he talking like that?
First, you know who I don't like? Like, I don't like the character's characterization the most in this episode. It's Sam Winchester. Like,
oh, yeah, no, he would not do this unless he was poisoned. Like you're telling me in this glass office with the blinds open?
Like, they are working a case where guys fuck women and then they kill the people around them. And he's out here like, I'm just gonna fuck this woman. And like, he doesn't even have the like, oh, it's because I was poisoned. Because he wasn't.
Yeah, no, he truly just chose this with full consciousness of everything he was doing.
And then he was like, I'm so upset at you, Dean, that you don't trust me because I slept with a woman and the man sleeps with a woman and then kills other people. Case, what's wrong with you, Dean? And it's like, Sam, what is wrong with you? What the hell? Why is he acting like this?
I truly have no clue. Like, the last time Catherine Humphreys wrote Sam, like, was in Metamorphosis, right? Like, she seemed to understand things then. Why doesn't she
Yeah.
understand things now?
Well, anyway, let us start the episode. So,
What did I know about it?
oh yeah, we need to do that. What'd you know about it?
Well, I knew that Nick the Siren was going to be a man and that he and Dean would get along very well. But that, like, he would be, like, wanting to be Dean's replacement little brother rather than, like, a sexual or romantic person in his life, but that it's still, like, weirdly homoerotic, because, you know, Tumblr's obsessed with this episode.
Yeah.
And I also thought I knew things about this episode, but I think they were actually for the other Siren episode in, like, season 5 or whatever, where there's, like, the room with, like pink sheets and stuff, and then at some point, like, Dean goes in and he, like, flips open the blanket where there's, like, a naked guy in there, like, to check if there's anything underneath. Do you know the clip I'm talking about?
It's not from here.
Yeah, is that from the other Siren episode, though, like, in season 5?
Not sure. Not sure, but he does look at the guy's dick once.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when Danica watched whatever episode involved looking at the guy's dick. I feel like she told me that Dean also has a conversation with the guy where they, like, share a moment of, like, bro solidarity where, like, Dean's like, oh, you like Asian chicks too? And, like, so I'm looking forward to whenever that happens.
Ugh.
But you know what? It'll be more than 3 months before we have to see it.
That is true.
Not that Good Omens isn't racist, but it is a different brand.
One of the only few things I know about that show is that once you told me that there was a Supernatural fan on Tumblr who said they don't want to watch Good Omens due to racism, and you were like, you are a Supernatural fan. You do know that, right?
Yeah, I'd say if I had to, like, rank them, I'd say Good Omens the book is the most racist, followed by Supernatural, followed by Good Omens the show, but maybe refreshing my memory will change how I feel about it.
Well, let us start the episode. We begin at a suburban household where a guy comes home to his wife. And
does the then sequence not matter?
Well, what is it?
Well, okay. It, like, starts with, like, Ruby telling Sam, like, oh, like, you, like, need to tell Dean what we're doing because, like, if it doesn't come from you, he'll be pissed. And then it's, like, Dean going, like, oh, so you're BFFs with a demon? Like, something major must have happened. And that's a voiceover over the clip of the, like, Sam Ruby sex in 409, which is, like, strange. Like, the implication, because, like, in the episode, it's, like, I'm friends with Ruby now because she saved my life when I was, like, at my most suicidal. But, like, the way that this then sequence is putting it is just, like, it's because we fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it goes, like, oh, then, like, Sam goes, like, oh, then, like, oh, well, why don't you be more forthcoming? Like, tell me what happened in hell. And then Dean doesn't answer, and then the sequence ends, which makes it seem like he's hiding something about it, even though, like, he's not. Like, we already got the answer to that. So, like, it's just a very odd reframing of season 4 thus far, which I thought was interesting, and I don't really know what a lot of it has to do with. I guess, like, the Sam Ruby stuff is just, like, oh, we're gonna make Sam seem extra untrustworthy and unsympathetic in this so that you understand why Dean, like, is looking at his phone and things like that. And then the hell thing, I guess, like, I don't know, like, Sam has his line later where he's, like, poisoned, and he's like, oh, you just keep going, blah, 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 I'm so sad about the torture. Which is so, like, why didn't you show Dean being sad about the torture in the then sequence? Why did you just end it on him not answering? I don't know. Strange and odd. Whatever. It's no Pizza Man montage. That is the strangest and the oddest thing they've come up with.
The beginning of the episode is a man shows up at his house, and like his wife is like asking him like about work and all that crap, and every response he gives is one that reeks of like anger and frustration, right? Like at some point she says, "Oh, a friend of ours invited us to a party, so we're going to a party on Saturday." And the guy got really upset by this because he doesn't want to do that. And the woman just says, "Well, just cancel it. I don't know why you want to pick a fight with me." Then he bashes her head in with a meat tenderizer.
We now turn to a motel room. And Dean's like asleep, but then he wakes up and he hears Sam whispering on the phone. He's in the bathroom doing his secret phone call, but he's left his bathroom door completely open. Like, man, growing up gay when your dad isn't around must be so easy. Like, exactly. Do you know what I mean? Like, he didn't learn any basic life skills, like, at all. He'd probably, like, never had to, like, be on his laptop with, like, one finger, like, poised over the homework tab as he took Am I Gay quizzes. Like, not a single time, you know? So he's talking about how there's, like, no demonic omens nearby, but he'll keep looking, blah, blah, blah. And then he hangs up, comes back to the bedroom, and wakes Dean up. Dean is pretending that he was asleep the whole time. And Sam's like, oh yeah, I wasn't doing anything. I was like pissing and shitting with the door open, you know. He introduces Dean to a case, the one that we saw in the opening, and this is the third man, like, in the last 2 months in Bedford, Iowa, who has killed his wife. So, yeah, R.I.P. Sam references The Shining. Here, Sam does way more pop culture references than usual this episode. Did you notice that?
Yes. He even says, like, some stuff that, like, I have absolutely no idea what he's talking about. Which is new for him.
I feel like it's possible that, like, maybe, like, Sam and Dean's roles were, like, somewhat switched in this episode originally, and then, like, it didn't work out because they wanted Nick as the little brother figure, so then Catherine Humphreys just, like, moved around some lines and things. Because, yeah, Sam feels really out of character here.
Yeah, that line is pretty much, the whole, like, you want me to be your little brother, is pretty much the only thing that is character specific about any of their interactions with other people this episode.
Yeah.
Because, like, everything else is like, that could be Sam or that could be Dean, and it wouldn't matter. Like, even in their big final fight, like, the siren poisoned Sam too. It's not essential that Dean gets poisoned and then says all this shit to Sam. You know, because Sam gets poisoned too and says all this shit to Dean. So, it's equal footing.
And we'll get to it when we get to it, but, like, it's weird that, like, during the fight, I feel like Dean was saying things he meant, but I don't know, like, everything Sam said, I was like, is that something he actually, like, thinks or cares about? I don't know, whatever, maybe it is. So, we go to the prison where the man from the opening is being held, and Sam and Dean are pretending to be public defenders, asking him questions about what exactly happened. And the guy, Mr. Benson, is like, I am pleading guilty because, like, I fully killed her just because I was angry about nothing at all, and I was completely in my right mind when I did it. Even though I loved her and we were happy. And then Dean pulls out some, like, bank statements he has for Mr. Benson. And apparently he's recently spent $9,000 at a strip club. So Benson says, like, okay, yeah, fine. Her name was Jasmine. At no point in this episode do they, like, actually mention that all the names that the siren is using are for, like, Disney princesses.
Yeah.
Like, was that just supposed to be, like, a fun little Easter egg? Because, like, not that many people are gonna get it. Like, I know that men don't know about fairy tales, but...
I think it's more of, like, this is just what stripper names are.
Like, Disney princesses?
I mean, that's the implication, yes.
Okay, but later Dean was like, one of them was a redhead and one of them was Asian, and he's talking about when the stripper was going by Ariel and then Jasmine. Like, that's like not just about the name. Like, they're like taking on Disney's princess appearances, supposedly.
I don't think it's enough of, like, an obscure thing to be an Easter egg, though. It's just something.
Yeah, I agree that it's not enough of an obscure thing to be an Easter egg, which is why I'm surprised that it wasn't pointed out. Or, like, that Nick didn't have the name of a Disney prince or another Disney character to continue the thing, to be, like, one of the, like, hints that it was him. You know what I mean? Like, this seems like something that was going to be pointed out as part of solving the case, and it wasn't.
That is such a goofy thing to have been something that happened this episode. Like, imagine this entire episode, and then at the middle of it, they're like, and this guy is named... I can't even name a single guy from... This guy's named Sebastian.
Yeah, but then, like, I just, like, why do the, like, specifically, like, the siren takes on the name Ariel when choosing to be a redhead, etc. thing? Whatever, it's not a big deal.
I mean, okay,
who cares?
Put yourself in the mind of a stripper. You have red hair, or you have a red wig, right? And you think to yourself, what will make, like, me, like, a recognizable figure in this establishment? You would want to draw onto your features that differentiate you from the other people there, right?
Uh-huh.
So if you have red hair, you would be like, okay, I'm named Ariel now because I have red hair and Ariel has red hair, and I'm trying to stand out.
All right, fine. I'll
It's just what people do. Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, Ben says her name was Jasmine, and Sam goes, she was a stripper, and Dean goes, dude, her name was Jasmine. Which,
first of all, many people are named Jasmine.
I don't think people are named Jasmine. Come on. But anyway, so he met her when his friend was having a bachelor party, and apparently she was perfect. Everything that I wanted. I think he just has a thing for Asians. And then he says it wasn't about the money. It wasn't even about the sex. It was... I don't know what it was. It's hard to explain. We see the siren interact with someone later, and, like, it literally is about the sex, because, like, the like, character that, like, they're putting on has no fucking personality.
Well, also... This is me in every single 2-week fling that I have ever. It's not about the anything, it's about the connection. God, hearing it from somebody else has made me realize how annoying I am no matter what.
You were fine, ish, during the last one. Anyway, so, but his wife never found out. That's not why he did it. It was just because Jasmine said that they could be together forever if only Vicky was dead. And after the murder, he was supposed to meet up with her, but she never showed up. And he doesn't know anything about where she lives or her name, so he's got nothing. And
Here's my question.
And you, yeah?
In most like monsters that Supernatural does, there's always some kind of motivation, right?
Yeah, right. Usually they have to kill to eat, or like with ghosts, they're just like so angry about something that happened that they just have to act on it.
There's absolutely no motivation for the siren at all for anything ever. Like,
yeah.
Is it the money? Is it because they're giving the siren money and now the siren has money? Because if so, why like disappear immediately after you have established that this person will do anything for you no matter what, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the confrontation with Nick later, doesn't he say something about how, like, oh, it just feels so good, like, knowing someone would kill for you. Like, that's it. I'm just evil. But, like, I guess the implication is that there are, like, perfectly nice sirens around. Because they don't have to kill to eat or anything. We just, like, ran into, like, a real dickbag.
But, like, I don't even think it's about it's so nice that someone is willing to kill for you. Because, you know
poisoned
what? As a fan of toxic media, if somebody kills for you stay with that person. Because then you have, like, something over them, you know?
Yeah.
You killed for me already, so why not blah, 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 blah?
Yeah.
So this power play doesn't even work because you're gone before it has any effect. So boo! Yeah. If you're a siren and you have the power to make people kill for you,
commit to them.
Commit to the bit, exactly.
Yeah. Also, I don't know, it's just like, it's not even like, I like practicing my skills of manipulation thing, because it's like, as long as you get the poison in them, like...
Yeah.
Right, like, you don't actually have to interact with that person in any way. Like, you don't actually have to fuck them or do anything. But, like, is it just about,
he didn't even kiss Sam. He just spit on his mouth.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't get it. Is it just about reveling in the power you have with the poison? I don't know. I don't get it. They did not really flesh this out.
This is a poorly written episode.
Sam says you didn't think to tell this to the cops, which, I mean, why would he? Like, it just makes him look worse, doesn't it? Would this actually help his case at all? And Benson's like, no, I didn't, because it was me who was in the wrong, and if I don't get the death sentence, I will just kill myself. So, yup. Also, wait, did you notice the, like, just awful zoom-ins on this guy's face while he was talking?
There's a lot of it this episode.
Right, and, like, has Charles Beeson done that before? I, like, was like,
no,
is this a Robert Singer? No, this is, like, new.
This is just, like, because of the topic of the episode, I feel. Because the episode is supposed to be, like, sexual and intimate or whatever.
No, but it was, like, while this guy was just talking about how upset he was that he killed his wife, it's like, there's a bunch of weird cuts and, like, zoom-ins on his face.
Yeah. I don't know. We go to a hospital, and it's kind of like a pathology office where the only person there is this doctor who is holding, like, her head in her hands, and she feels a bit sick because of a hangover.
Yeah. Dr. Kara Roberts.
Sam goes like, oh, you had a rough night? And Dr. Kara goes, no, I had a fun night, but I'm having a rough morning. And, like, you know, immediately you get the vibe of the character that they're gunning for, which is like snarky, and it's the type of character that they always pair up with Sam.
Yeah, she does have like Sarah Blake
She
vibes.
has Sarah vibes, Madison vibes, even. Like,
yeah.
why? Why do they always do this specifically for Sam?
I don't know. I mean, what's the vibe of the characters that they pair up with Dean?
Anyone? I don't know.
Yeah. Anyone?
The thing is,
I don't know.
I feel like a lot of the time with Dean, the characters they pair up with him are more of like, I'm hitting on you. And with Sam, it's more of they are hitting on Sam, you know?
Yeah.
So it is more like the concept of like a type of woman that likes Sam is more conceivable than like type of woman who likes Dean. Because honestly, I don't think women like Dean that much. Like, think of one woman that liked Dean instantly or before he was there. Before he was like flirting it up with her. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Huh. Good question. Yeah. I can't think of one.
Yeah.
So, right, I guess in order for them to hit on Sam, they have to have some kind of an assertive personality, and they've decided the way to make it hot in a woman is if she's, like, snarky.
Yeah. Also, like, they always do, like, the career woman for Sam. Which I think is their, like, is this, like, thinking where it's, like, oh, because Sam was, like, in college or whatever. So, like, he likes women who are career women.
Yeah. He requires a diploma before the smash. Yeah, and, you know, she's pretty, so immediately you're like, oh, here's the red herring of the episode.
This doctor is the one who works on all the autopsies from the sheriff's department and all the, like, blood tests, like talk screens for the people who were arrested and all that. And she says, like, nothing's wrong with the autopsy aside from the way they were murdered, which was pretty straightforward. And there was this moment where Sam is, like, pressing on about the blood, and she just goes, well, can I see your ID again? And Sam shows it, and she looks at it for a while, and then she gives the file. And, like, I think they are trying to do something with this, and, like, later on with the FBI guy, Siren, also, like, checking up on their credentials.
Yeah. That
So,
makes
like,
sense.
I think maybe there would be a portion in the episode where you think they're both sirens or something. But, like, I mean, that's not what they do.
I don't think so, though. I feel like they've made it very firm that, like, oh, the siren only takes the shape of a woman, so I feel like that's
later,
enough to throw them off. Yeah?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't recall watching this episode for the first time at all, ever. So I don't know what my reaction to this was. Yeah, I don't recall what my reaction to this was, where, like, I didn't know who the siren was, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, there was some stuff in the blood work, because there's high levels of oxytocin, which the doctor describes as the love hormone. And
you know another reason I think this was written for Dean and not Sam? Sam would know what oxytocin is, and he wouldn't later go, so this chemical, like, he forgot the name? Like, he would not forget the name of oxytocin.
And, like, they do this, like, little thing where Kara describes what love feels like, and they smile at each other. And then, like, Dean comes in and is like, hey, what's up? And, like, you know, like, he's, like, trying to put up the charm. But Kara don't give a shit and just keeps on talking to Sam. Like, as they head out, Sam turns around and goes, "Hey, you know what cures a hangover? A greasy breakfast."
Everyone knows that already. Like, how is he dispensing it like it's like a line?
I don't know.
Hey, sometimes you can breathe oxygen through your mouth if your nose is stuffy, girl. Like, that's what he sounds like right now.
It literally does. Yeah. Anyway, they have a little laugh about it. And then they go out and Dean tells Sam, "Dude, you totally cock-blocked me," but he doesn't say cock.
Except he can't say cock. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they can say cock.
Can they?
Maybe not cock-blocked, because that implies cock specifically being about the penis.
Oh, I mean, they can say cock for a chicken, sure.
Yeah, but, like, technically they can say dick, even if it's, like, you're being a dick, because it's, like, you're being a Richard instead of being a, you know.
Sure, yeah. I don't know. I don't think they can say cock unless they're talking about a chicken.
Yeah, is cock worse than penis? Well, I mean, it's not. It is, because the penis is the medical term. Is cock worse than dick? Let's explore this avenue.
I think so.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, cock is like the go-to word in pornography.
Okay. Man. I mean, I'm pretty comfortable saying most words in English that refer to genitalia. But make me say it in any, like, in Filipino, and it's like, no, that's too much. Like, I don't even know why. I think because, like, there's more of a modesty culture.
Yeah.
When it comes to, like, speaking in Filipino. But literally, like, I cannot say it. Like, even right now, like, I'm thinking, like, oh, I should, like, set an example and, like, say it. And I'm like, don't say it in the podcast.
Yeah, hey, remember when we started this podcast, you wouldn't say bitch? And, like, you heard me quote it the first time and you were like, damn, I guess I have to now.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we live, we laugh, we learn, etc.
Indeed. Dean has apparently interviewed the other two men who killed their wives, and both of them went to the same strip club called the Honey Wagon, but they did not hook up with someone named Jasmine. They each had a different person that they said they were seeing, but this person was described as perfect and everything that they wanted. So Sam theorizes that they were under some kind of a love spell and notices that Dean is incredibly cheerful, and he asks him about this, and Dean goes, "Strippers, Sammy, strippers. We're on an actual case involving strippers. Finally." Well, I think we've already discussed how in, like, every other episode of season 4, Dean is like, I'm in it just to look at naked women. But also in the other half of the episodes, he's like, I'm so guilty about hell, and these cases are the only things that are, like, redeeming me in the eyes of God, so... Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Leave people alone, Dean. They go to the club, and Dean's talking to the manager. So the 3 names used by the siren were Jasmine, Aurora, and Ariel. One is a redhead about 5'9", the other one is Asian, and then, he gets cut off because the manager is just like, I don't have any paperwork, I don't know anything, because everyone here works for cash, and I don't keep track of this shit. And this is not my problem. Meanwhile, Sam is called Bobby. Is it always Sam who calls Bobby? I feel like I haven't been keeping track. But yeah, it is weird that, like, I feel like most of the time when it's, like, called Bobby and he has a theory, it's, like, Sam who does it. But, like, Bobby still considers Sam his least favorite child.
Yeah. Sam is his
So-
work child, and Dean
Exactly.
is his child. Yeah.
Yeah. Their theory is that the monster of the week is a siren. And Dean goes, oh, like in the Greek myth, the Odyssey? And Sam looks at Dean kind of weird, and Dean goes, hey, I read, which people
Which is
like
such
to
an
quote.
It's an
What?
odd thing to
Yeah.
like. First of all, siren is just part of the cultural, like
Yeah.
it's just something that exists in the world as a concept.
Uh-huh.
I don't think you need to have read the Odyssey
Read the
once
entire
in your
Odyssey.
life. I don't think you even need to know what the word Odyssey means
Yeah.
to know what the siren is. You know, and it's just this like super odd, like, why is Sam so surprised? Why is Dean literate all of a sudden? No, I'm just kidding. I mean, like, why is Sam so surprised? You know?
Yeah.
And it's just, it does, I don't know, the whole like Dean reads and is actually smart. I feel like there's a lot of other references that he makes that can be attributed to that doesn't have to be this stupid of a like, oh, this thing that everybody knows about, I know about it too.
Yeah.
You know,
Isn't
like
there...
the guy
there
loves
was,
Kurt
like-
Vonnegut. He's the reason why I started reading that shit. Like, there's, I don't, you know, like he consistently references what Lord of the Rings, like other like big fantasy stuff, and also just like the sheer amount of pop culture he knows. Like those things are already impressive. It just, I don't know. I don't know why I hate this line so much, but like I'm not here to hate on the Dean Winchester can read truthers, but like I don't know. It's just, it feels so stupid to me because of the context of it.
Yeah, and I don't know, I feel like he can be smart without reading. Like,
That's
it don't-
true.
Like, we can, like, value different forms of intelligence equally or whatever. Like, do you remember that week everyone was, wait, is it okay to make fun of a fanfiction on our podcast?
Maybe, maybe not. I'll decide in the editing room, which is also the
the,
room where I
like,
record, because it's the same room for
smart
everything.
Dean verse, like, there was, like, a series called, like, Smart Dean, or something like that. And,
Okay.
like, it's... Okay, can I just read a passage
The
from it?
synopsis. Okay.
Well, the synopsis is that, well, the general plot of this one fic in the series is that, like, Dean shows up at Stanford and is hanging out with his college friends, and Sam keeps trying to change the subject to topics he thinks Dean can handle, but Dean is able to keep up with an academic debate and win it. And then the summary ends with, Sam is surprised, Dean's hurt that Sam thinks he's stupid. And the end of a scene is, okay, Dean attempts to smile. It comes out as more of a grimace, though, so he lets it fall from his face. Finally, he sighs, dragging a hand over his face. Damn it, Sammy. This is me. You want the real truth? I've hidden for as long as I can remember. I've hidden from you, Dad, Bobby, pretty much everyone we've ever come into contact with. And no, I'm not going to talk about why. No chick flick moments, remember? Dean, Sam starts. No, Sammy. I get why maybe you thought I wasn't a goddamn genius, but I don't think I ever act like that much of an idiot. And are you? Sam asks. Am I what? Dean says harshly. Are you a genius? Sam waits with bated breath. Yes. Yes, Sammy. I am. With that, he turns and leaves. Sam watches him go, regretting his words, but most importantly, his assumptions. It has 817 kudos. Anyway, we can move on.
What is happening? What is happening? What is this?
It's
What is this?
like, it's like
Yes,
one of Sam's
I'm a
friends
genius.
asks him. Sam.
I'm coming out as a genius.
Sam watches him go,
and you
regretting
can
his
ever
words, but
shame
most
me
importantly, his
who I
assumptions.
am.
Oh my god. The next day, Sam texts him and is like, I'm sorry, I never really knew you. Tell me about your favorite intellectual field. And Dean says, mathematics as a whole. If we're going to get particular, I'd say differential geometry and mathematical logic. And then there's philosophy. Well, individual philosophies that interest me personally would be a better way to put it. Like, this is not, like, a character you can respect people who know about cars and pop culture as their, like, main interests. Like, you don't have to do this.
Yeah. Like, if you're like fucking Peter's statement about how we should treat stupid people niceys, and your conclusion is because stupid people are actually smart in the most traditional way that we think of intelligence. Like, dude, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's bad.
I'm so sorry, fic writer.
817 kudos! So Sam's like, well, the siren's not actually a myth. Like, that's hilarious. Everything you hunt is a myth that's not actually a myth. But anyway, so apparently they specifically prey on men, which I guess is why the episode opens with 3 domestic abuse cases or whatever. And it entices them with their siren song. And, okay, the 2 songs that Dean cites as being, like, seductive are Welcome to the Jungle and Cherry Pie, which I don't know very well. I think I've seen an AMV of Dean set to Cherry Pie, but I don't know much about Welcome to the
They're
Jungle.
both like songs that are loud and noisy. You know what? We
Okay.
need Dean to listen to Caliuchis.
To what?
Am I pronouncing that incorrectly? You know, Caliuchis?
I think I may just not know the artist.
The person who sang Telepatia.
Oh,
Yeah.
I never really listened to that. I know there's some good AMVs to the song, but, like, I feel like I never finished them.
You've never listened to Caliuchis. You need to. You and Dean Winchester.
Okay. I'll do it just to
Okay.
differentiate myself from Dean Winchester.
Yes, exactly.
So, you know, Sam says that they don't have an actual song, it's more about an allure. And sirens used to live on islands, but now, if in 2009 they are more likely to set shop in a strip club, why would you go to, like, the middle of nowhere, like Bedford, Ohio, where it's a small town and, like, there's, like, one doctor? Like, couldn't, like, and, like, it's so obvious that something is up. Like, hunters are gonna come immediately because because 50% of the town's population murdered their wives and the other 50% are the dead wives.
No, also, like, you don't have to be in a strip club.
Yeah,
If
you just have to
can
spit
literally
in
just-
someone's mouth
Yeah.
from
Like,
10
I don't
feet
even
away.
know why anyone. I don't know. Like, it's because I'm a lazy fuck, but I cannot imagine wanting to work in any way, shape, or form if I have abilities that will allow me to just go, hey, do you want to give me money? And a person just go, yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah,
So, like,
I agree.
I don't know. Like, why
Also,
do all this?
I don't know.
Like, the ocean, like, if you're in the middle of the
mirrors-
ocean and you're like, come to me in the middle of the ocean on this beautiful island. Like, I completely understand that. The ocean is beautiful. But, like, what would you do in fucking whatever place this
Bedford,
is? Ohio?
Iowa.
Who give a shit about Iowa? Go into the ocean,
mean,
you know?
Yeah, I mean, there are people in Iowa, and I care about them
Sorry,
in general.
people
But
in
yeah, I
Iowa.
do think that there's nothing about this siren that makes me think that they wouldn't be better served, like just spitting in random people's mouths on the streets of NYC.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is the situation. Also, like the mirror thing doesn't come up this episode at all.
It does.
I mean, does it that much? Is it like, okay, wait, sorry, during the fight is there a moment where like one of them sees the mirror and it helps break them out of it? Because I didn't see that happen. Maybe I missed it?
No, there's just like the whole like
Well, it's just that, like, I thought, like, it'd be more
They-
plot relevant that in a mirror you can see the siren's true form. Like,
well, I mean, we can because we see it, but not the victims, you know.
yeah, but, like, one of the, like, men that the siren, like, seduces, like, has what, like, a fucking mirrored ceiling, and he doesn't notice that, like, in
Yeah.
the mirror is a horrific creature. Like, I don't know what the point is if it wasn't gonna be relevant to solving the case or realizing something. Also, like, I don't know, I feel like strip clubs are often, like, full of mirrors, so, like, wouldn't you want to go to a more matte establishment if you wanted to, like, get away with shit like this? Whatever, who cares? Bad episode. So,
Do they even
Sirens-
mention the mirror in the episode?
they don't. It's just that they don't at all. We just see it. You'd think that it's like with like shapeshifters. It's like, oh, let's check all the camera feeds because we know this thing about their eyes. But like with sirens, it's just like, I guess they don't know that they show up weird in mirrors, but it also never comes up that they show up weird in mirrors. Whatever. So, they can read your mind and then disguise themselves as whatever you want best. So, this, like, the Ariel, Jasmine, Aurora were probably all the same person. And, you know, Bobby's working on figuring out the right way to kill him, but currently it's going to be very hard for them to figure out who it is. As they talk, like, there's, like, a woman who walks by them, and then, like, in the next cut, she's changed appearances from, like, a blonde person to a brunette person, and she approaches some youngish guy named Lenny, and he says, "Hey, Belle," and she leads him out to his apartment.
They do this thing where the guy that she has come home with is taking care of his mom, which I think we can assume was like old and like
Yeah.
sick in some
Sick.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, like the Belle is like, oh, it's so amazing that you're still taking care of her. Like, most people would just put their moms in a nursing home. And the guy's very like, yeah, I mean, my mom, so it's fine. But, like, Belle keeps on insisting that, like, no, this is like a big deal and you're so strong and you're so wonderful for this.
Yeah, and the whole time she's also taking off her clothes.
Yeah. And then they have sex. And then, like, after the sex, they're doing pillow talk. And she goes, like, but it sucks that your mom's here. Like, if it would be so much better if she just wasn't here so you can just be with me forevermore. The guy's like, okay. And then she goes, you should bash her brains in. And he goes, okay. And then he does.
Yeah. Man.
Wild shit.
There's no skill here, no personality. Like, whatever. It's just the same thing where I don't know what the siren gets out of it. Like,
yeah.
This is like
also,
the most generic woman ever that they're playing right now.
Also, okay, I have seen many takes about this episode. People who are like, this is proof that Dean is bisexual. People who are like, if you think this is proof that Dean is bisexual, you're feeding into, like, the whole incest juju that the show is peddling. And then I have seen a take where it's like, there's a character in the show where he's taking care of his mom and then he ends up killing his mom, and like that relationship is very strictly familial. So like we can assume that like Sam and Dean's relationship is also strictly familial.
I mean,
which like that's a very bad way to put it. I am going to point out that like in this one, he is taking care of his mother. And then he has sex with her. And she goes,
not his mother. He has sex with the siren.
You can be in love if you kill your mom.
Yeah,
like,
that's
it's not
very
like,
different.
It's
not like I could be your mom.
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah.
like, this is not the evidence that you're looking for that this episode is not, like, weird in the incest way, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just, like, Hays Code era gay villain shit, like...
Yeah.
Just, like, there's always gonna be a level of queer sexuality to something that is evil, because we're supernatural.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think they're feeding into the incest shippers on purpose. I think they just are like, you know what's evil? Being gay. Also, Dean's most important relationship is with his brother platonically. We'll combine these two things and it won't be weird. Promise.
Yeah.
Is Catherine Humphries the one who did bedtime stories?
I forgot.
I will check, because that was, like, one of the most blatantly homophobic episodes that we had, right? Yeah, that was her, the dude, could you be any more gay? I think she's just kind of a sicko. Anyway.
I've also seen someone say that, like, for a repressed queer person, it is very natural to think of, like, someone that you desire sexually to be like a family, which is such a wild thing to say, I feel, personally. So, I don't know. I think maybe it is.
Maybe, like...
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, you can... I mean, I guess if you're, like, trying to, like, rationalize being very attached
like, loving
to
someone a lot, yeah.
Yeah,
you can be
and
like,
you're like, this
I love them
doesn't
in the family
feel
way.
like typical friendship, then, yeah, that is, like, one way you could choose to rationalize it to yourself. But, like, I don't think that's what is happening here.
Yeah. I also don't think that's what, like, Catherine Humphries was trying to say. I don't think Catherine Humphries was trying to say anything.
She
all.
Just was like, well, I don't want the monster to be too obvious. The end.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but, like, she is still saying something, even if she didn't intend to say... I don't know. It's so odd. Like, honestly, even... Okay, there's, like, a way that she could be, like, trying to say something that, like, could be executed alright, I think, which is, like, oh, like, for a lot of people, like, sex and romance are, like, the things that they long for the most or that they prize the most in their lives, but for Dean, it's, like, this relationship.
You know what I read the most about it in the queer sense? Dean is a romantic. Isn't that like something? You know what I mean?
No, yeah. I feel like that is honestly right. Like, the
Like,
biggest take. Right. I think that's sort of, yeah, what I was getting at. The way that it's, like, you don't have to prize a romantic or sexual relationship above
yeah.
all else. Like, that could be,
Yeah.
like, something you don't even want that much that you're just doing
Yeah.
for the sake of appearances.
I think if we're going to do like queer reading of Sex and Violence, season 4, episode 14 of Supernatural,
Yeah.
that is like, I think the direction, I mean, I would personally take. Like, all these other people want romance in their lives.
Yeah.
Dean doesn't. He just wants
Yeah.
a guy to hang out with.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that could be done well, except they just make the whole Nick thing so... Like, it's still a seduction and it still feels sexual, even as he keeps saying the words little brother.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, there are ways... Like, maybe you're thinking, like, there's just not a way to do something like this without making it seem sexual. But in fact, if you read Bad Moon Rising and its sequel, Rising Sun Blues, like, the author has taken Meg's character and changed it a lot so that, like, sort of like what she's chasing Sam around for is that she wants, like, a brother replacement for the one that they killed in season 1. And, like, that's, like, done in a very interesting way where there's, like, not a single hint of, like, sexual or romantic tension, like, with the two of them at all. But, like, it is still, like, a, like, trying to convince you, like, and, like, longing and all of that shit. But, like, it's actually done in a way that separates the two modes of, like, affection and shit. So, yeah, Catherine Humphries, take notes. Dean's alone in the motel room, and Sam has accidentally left his phone unguarded, unpassworded, in the room. Again, growing up without your parents in the house truly makes you a different person, I have to say. So Dean spends a long time looking at it, being like, do I invade his privacy? I don't know if it's like a do I invade his privacy or like, do I want to confirm the suspicion that I think is true but that I wish wasn't sort of look. But he takes a while before he picks up the phone and then goes to the third most recently dialed number, which there's no contact name in it. It's just a number with a 219 area code, which is Chicago. So maybe that's where Ruby lives. So he dials, and he hears Ruby's voice go, "Hey, Sam. Sam, you there?" And Dean hangs up immediately and is upset. So, Sam comes in from interviewing Lenny from earlier. Apparently he brought home Belle. He killed his mom right after. And Dean was like, wait, he killed his mom? And Sam was like, well, it was the woman he was closest to. Which implies that... I don't even know what it implies. It's weird that it's, like, women only, but I guess Catherine Humphries was like, equality is when you try to kill your brother later in the episode. And then Dean returns Sam's phone to him, And Bobby calls and says that the lore indicates that probably the best way to kill a siren is to nick them with a bronze dagger covered in the blood of someone who is under the siren's spell. And the spell is probably some kind of venom that gets in the victim's blood. And Sam goes, oh, and it makes them go all Manchurian Candidate, which is his next pop culture reference that I feel like he wouldn't know. But, basically the Manchurian Candidate... Oh no, I thought I took notes on the Wikipedia page that I read, but I think instead I read the Wikipedia page and was like, I need to go on YouTube and watch Mitski talk for 13 minutes instead of thinking about Supernatural. But basically the Manchurian Candidate is a novel that was adapted into a movie, and it was like, there was some guy who was like the son of a prominent US politician, and then he was like in the army or something, and then he got kidnapped by like the Soviet Union during the Korean War, and then taken to Manchuria, which is like northeast China, where they're like in a camp and brainwashed into being communists, and then they become like sleeper agents and like go back to like the US or something, and then he like acts as like a communist assassin or whatever, and also his like handler is his mom, and in some of the movies or in the book too, he has a sexual relationship with her. I don't know, it seems like just a bunch of Red Scare shit, but that is what Sam is referencing here. People would just write anything back in the day. Yeah. So that's what we know, and apparently getting the blood of one of the people who is currently in jail is useless because they're no longer under the spell, so Sam decides that he's gonna go visit Dr. Roberts, Dr. Roberts, to pick up the blood samples that she has.
Sam and Dean go to the hospital again, and Dr. Kara is there, and they're asking her for the blood, when suddenly a guy goes up to them, and Dean goes all, hey, we're working a case here, and we're FBI, and then he shows his badge, and the guy goes, well, I'm FBI too. And then they start talking to him, and he is suspicious of them, and asks them about where they're from, who assigned them, all that crap. And Dean gives them a calling card of their superior officer. Mm-hmm. And so the guy calls this. And what do you know? It's Bobby. And Bobby's putting on such a fucking show. He's like, are you questioning my authority? I checked, and it's under your jurisdiction. Or are you saying I'm wrong? Like, he's putting on bad cop so good.
And
then, like, at some point, he's
barbecuing the whole time wearing a Kiss the Chef apron.
Yeah, and he's like, next time you want to waste my time, don't. And then he hangs up, and then, like, you see a row of fucking phones that's, like, different, with different
agencies,
tapes over them that says different things. And it's like, Marshall, FBI, CIA, all that crap. And I remember the very first... Actually, here's a thing that I remember about this episode. I remember this scene. Is this the first time that we see this phone set up?
I feel like we saw a different phone setup earlier with, like, a bunch of, like, cell phones on a table, but I feel like they were not as well labeled.
I think that was Dean with the phones, like
Yeah,
in the glove compartment of the car. But like
maybe.
in the late, I may or may not be misremembering this, but in the later seasons, the bunker kind of becomes this. Like, Sam and Dean would have like a bunch of phones out in the bunker where it's just like
Bobby's dead, so
yeah, somebody's got to do the job. And I don't know, I always thought that this whole situation of like different phones label different things and they have their like aliases and their personas and who is playing who and which jurisdiction is which, like write down every single thing is like every single thing is accounted for right down to like the very specifics. I always thought that was cool because like I am so interested about the logistics of all this shit, you know? Like like do they have a checklist? Do they fill out the form? You know?
Yeah.
I was so cool that they just know what to do in these situations. And they have their fucking cosplay characters in check at all times.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
So funny that the siren had to like drive 20 miles to the nearest like Kinko's to like print out a fake FBI badge.
The guy comes back to Sam and Dean and he introduces himself a while ago. He's Nick Monroe. He apologizes, shares some of his insights, which is that he knows about the strip club and that all of them went there and all of them spent lots of money there and all that. And at first, when he asks Sam and Dean whether they should go and check it out, Dean was opposed to this idea, but Sam pulls him aside and basically goes, well, you just stay with him, keep him out of there, and I will just be here and like getting the blood, right? So Dean heads out, and they also have this conversation where like Sam is like, focus on the naked girls, Dean. You'll forget he's even there. And Dean is like, okay, I'm doing it for the girls. Which, you know, once you know how the episode turns out, it's like, okay, well.
Well, we cut to Dean and Nick heading to the car. And Nick is like, oh my god, no way, you drive an Impala? Is it a 67 with a 327 4-barrel? Oh my god.
I'm pretty sure that, like, they said a different 4-barrel number when John was being introduced to this car or whatever. But you know what? I won't check. I will believe them. I will believe them no matter what.
327 4-barrel. No, it matches up. Same thing.
Sad. Devastating. What's the other thing that John says?
275 horses.
I love that.
Yeah. So, you know, Nick's like, oh my god. Like, how did you get the FBI to let you drive your own car? Wow, you're so cool, Dean. Meanwhile, Sam's trying to convince Dr. Roberts to give him the blood, and she's like, bro, like, do you not trust me? Like, I'm a doctor, I did the tests. But eventually, Sam's like, there's a specialist, we want to try out his theory, etc. So she goes over to her cabinet, but the blood is gone. Gasp. Meanwhile, at the strip club, Dina's not looking at the naked girls at all because he's asexual and aromantic. Is sort of the vibe of this episode, which I enjoy as a reading. If only there was good writing attached to it. So he and Nick are talking, and they're, like, basically just, like, quizzing each other on Zepp songs. Like, what year they were recorded, and then, like, who wrote them, and things like that. And it's like, man, is this how, like, men have fun? Like, okay, you know that, like, probably completely bullshit era of, like, people thinking that fandom was, like, equivalent to, like, social justice or whatever, where they were like,
Yeah.
the way that, like, men enjoy things is that they enjoy knowing trivia and, like, gatekeeping, like, who like, is a true fan, and women enjoy things by being transformative and writing fan fiction. And, like, that's bullshit. But also, like, currently Dean is not doing much to go against
Elevate,
this
yeah.
statement that was made. Yeah. So they're having fun.
I mean, to be fair,
Yeah.
I think, like, the last time, like, my most vivid experience of being around guys talking about an interest is, I think I've mentioned this in the podcast before, because I think about it constantly.
Okay.
Like, one time I was just hanging out with guys in my class, and they were talking about guns in extreme detail, and I was so shocked that, like, they knew anything about this. And they knew, like, I think I don't know. I don't know anything about guns. So, like, they were talking about things that I couldn't even begin to understand what they're referring to.
Yeah.
And so I was like, how do you guys know all this? And they're like, oh, we play it in video games. Like, and it literally is just them, like, exchanging, like, information about guns. And I support that. I love it so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever floats their boats. Dean's like, oh my god, dude, you know, like, for a Fed, you're, like, pretty alright. And they're discussing the case a little bit. And then Nick is like, hey, I found something kind of weird. At every single crime scene, there was a flower left behind, like a calling card. And it's a hyacinth. And it's blue. And Dean's like, oh my god, I think I've seen a flower like this before. And we cut outside of Dr. Roberts' office, where that plant exists.
Sam is there. Dr. Roberts is there.
Can I make it any more obvious?
Yeah. They're, like, watching the tapes. Eh? They're watching, like, somebody.
They're
tapes. Trying to look out for who stole the blood, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they can't figure it out. R.I.P.
Can you believe Sam just ditches town and doesn't tell her anything? Like, she's just like, well, he left. No arrests were made. The blood is still missing. We have no clue why. Oh well, I guess at least no one else has murdered his wife. Also, like, again, like, all the people in jail who are going to get the death sentence, like, this is because none of you are willing to tell the world that the supernatural is a real thing. Like, those men are going to be executed because none of you will tell the world that the supernatural is a real thing. I hope you think about that sometimes.
And I think this is why Sam needs to be a lawyer no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
This show would be so much more fun if he was a supernatural lawyer.
Sam is trying to tell her that, like, oh, I think there's something that happened to them, like maybe they were drugged or something. Kara is just saying that, yeah, no. Sometimes you just love someone so much, but you still want to bash their head in. And Sam is like, oh, are you speaking from experience? And she goes, yeah, and then starts going to, like, the
liquor cabinet
fridge
in her doctor's office.
Well, I guess there is a liquor cabinet. And
She's
she pours
a
whiskey.
terrible doctor.
This may be true. Maybe she's the Dr. House of her generation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good point. She's not mean enough.
She offers Sam the drink. Sam takes it after like some banter about like, oh, it's a doctor, I'm fine, it's medicine. And she starts talking about her ex-husband, who is Carl. And, you know, she talks about it like, I loved him, I really did, but one day I just looked at him and I couldn't recognize him anymore. And then like at some point Sam goes, so you guys split up? And she goes, I suppose that's a word for it. Then like later we find out that he died.
Yeah. Which, like, okay,
Crazy
like,
shit.
fair, like, sometimes people don't want to say that their spouses are dead because, like, people just, like, go full sympathy mode and don't find you hot anymore.
Yeah.
So, like, I get it, but, like, they really did so much to set her up as a red herring that, like, it doesn't even work because of, like, how obvious they're trying to make it.
I mean, and it's quite funny to think that like they didn't technically split up. He just died.
Yeah.
And she's like, and like the thing that she focuses on in that event in her life is that one day she just
woke
didn't
up.
recognize him anymore, and not the fact that like I don't know, a week later he was dead on the floor. Like that shit's crazy to me.
One day I woke up and I couldn't recognize him anymore because the decay had set in.
Exactly.
Seriously, yeah. No. What a
Yeah.
funny woman.
Well, somebody needs to compensate for Sam's absolute lack of any humor whatsoever.
Yeah.
I don't know when this running gag of Sam is so unfunny in our podcast started.
I don't
don't
know
stand
either.
by it. I don't stand by it, but I think it's funny to say that I think Sam is unfunny.
I
So you know
agree.
what? Sam is unfunny no matter what.
Mhm. Every week you bring a new verbal tick that you decide to just sprinkle throughout the episode. And I appreciate that.
What? We
No
say
matter
no
what.
matter what at any given opportunity, yeah. Well, they have sex.
Well, okay, first of all, Sam's phone rings and it's Dean.
And he
Dean,
goes,
who he knows is out on a case at the strip club where the siren usually works. And he's like, I don't have to get that.
I mean, it's
What
not
if
even
he
Dean.
died?
It's implied that it's Bobby. It's implied that it's
Oh.
Bobby.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind then. It's
Which
fine.
is like, but also like, Bobby is only going to call because of the case.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't really give a shit about it right now. I'm going to fuck someone in the fuck someone and kill other people case. Jesus Christ, Sam.
In the glass office. Okay, also, like, you said they have sex so that you could skip the horrible dialogue that comes before they have sex, but I think we really need to give attention to every single line
I
that's
don't want to think
exchanged
about
here.
it. I don't want to think about it.
Because you
ever
have COVID?
again.
Okay, I'll do it. So, Kara's like, oh, well, you know, we all have our sad backstories, so let's have fun, no regrets, and live life like there's no tomorrow. Which is like, okay, cool. Definitely a thing a real person would say. And then, like, she starts scooting closer to him, and she goes, for instance, I have been thinking about you all night. Well, parts of you. And Sam goes, just parts? And then, due to the fact that they can't say cock on Supernatural, she says, yeah, like your lips. Sure, man, that's what you were thinking about. And then she says, oh, they're very distracting, and I can't stop thinking about kissing them. This is like a 12-year-old's idea of what a sex scene is. And then they do, Sam's like, that's so, and like, she like takes his tie off, but like, she doesn't even unknot it. She just like moves it to, like, around and it just somehow comes off. I don't get it. And then, yeah, they have sex against the glass window where the shutters are open. Because, yeah. Also, like, the whole time, like, just at the beginning of the scene, like, her shirt is unbuttoned, like, to the waist. Like, I mean, maybe she planned this, but also, I just think that, just, you know, we've talked about the supernatural costume designers, but it's so crazy how the supernatural costume designers, like, really, what her whole outfit reminds me of is, like, there's a scene in Elementary where they're, like, interviewing a barista who, like, may have interacted with someone that they need to question, and he was like, oh yeah, like, there was, like, this super hot, like, woman who came in, and, like, I know she was a doctor, and, like, I could, like, see her cleavage, and it was great, and, like, later Jonah's like, okay, that was not a doctor, because, like, there's, like a dress code for, like, hygiene in the hospital, and, like, she would not be allowed to have her shirt unbuttoned that much, and that's what leads them to find the actual person, because she's like, he probably thought he was a doctor because she was wearing a white lab coat, but she was probably, like, one of the women who give you perfume samples at the nearest department store because a white coat is part of their uniform. So yeah, I don't know. Kara Roberts and the supernatural costume design people sure are people who make choices. Do you think that, like...
They are.
Do you think that, like, Ruby comes into Sam's thoughts at all throughout this situation?
What, you think he...
I don't think he's in a
experienced
monogamous relationship with Ruby. But, like, this is, like... As far as we're aware, the only person that he's had sex with besides Ruby in, like, a while. Like, does he consider this to be just, like, a completely different part of his life, so, like, he doesn't really consider the two things similar in any way?
I mean, that could be a possibility.
Yeah. It's just, I think it's just because Ruby was so present in the then sequence, especially the part where it's like, oh, what really changed his mind was the sex, that I was like, it's weird that that's not part of this at all, or that, like, they don't try to draw some corny-ass parallel between Ruby and, like, sirens, because, like, it's not a Sam episode. Also, when I say the shutters are open, I mean, like, they are 90 degrees perpendicular to the window. And they're having sex against the window, and she's the one against the window, so, like, they are fucking jabbing into her back the whole time. That cannot be comfortable. Whatever. And Sam's not even poisoned at all. Which, I mean, I guess is good, because, like, he's been through enough sexual assault already this season and every season. But, like, he would not do this. Okay, well, that was a scene.
It truly was.
Okay, so Sam heads back to the motel, and... Wait, why do we think that the call was from Bobby if Dean calls him and goes, where the hell have you been? Like, doesn't that imply that Dean tried to get in contact with him earlier?
Yeah, but also later, Bobby
Bobby's
says,
like, neither of you picked up your phone, so I knew something was weird.
Yeah.
No, but, okay, Dean called Bobby after this about Kara, so that was not the phone pickup that Bobby thought was suspicious. He was probably calling them during the fight, and we didn't notice.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, yeah. Dean's like... Yeah, Dean goes, where the hell have you been? And you're not picking up your phone? So, that was him. So Sam was like, oh, I was with Kara. Someone stole the blood samples. And Dean goes, yeah, I fucking bet. Like, Nick found these flower petals, the hyacinths, at the crime scenes. And those flowers are Mediterranean, which is from the island where the siren myth started. And Kara had those in her office or outside her office. And also, she's only been in town for 2 months, and her ex-husband, Carl, died of a heart attack with no warning. And Sam's like, well, I mean, I just don't think it was her.
Yeah. That tweet that's like, but she apologized and her dick is 10 inches throbbing.
And I want her in me. It's, yeah, no, 100%. Like, remember in Monster Movie when he, like, ran over to, like, fucking kill Ed at the movie theater with less evidence than this? Whatever. So...
Whatever.
So I was like, I just have, like, a feeling that, like, it wasn't her, and the feeling isn't how, like, my ass is still sore from her 10-inch cock. Dean's like, bro, like, you're being fucking stupid. Did you sleep with her? And Sam goes, no? And Dean goes, you're so stupid. That was so stupid. I do not get it. And Sam goes, what? And Dean says, nothing. And Sam says, no, say it, just like Edward from Twilight. And Dean goes, well, okay, like, first Madison, then Ruby, now Kara, like, what's with you and banging monsters? Which, I mean, I support monster fuckers, but there's not a pattern because this is only the Kara doesn't count. We find out later, but I mean, what is with Sam and banging monsters? Is this something that we've discussed?
You know what? I don't think it's true. You know why?
Yeah. Sarah?
Because Rowena and him didn't even have sex even once.
Oh yeah, that's true. I'm so
They had
sorry.
metaphorical sex in terms of he stabbed her to death and she was holding his hand while the blade impaled her.
Yeah.
And you know what? That too is Yuri.
I agree. But yeah, I don't think Sam really has a thing. I think the issue is just that he, like, fucks people on cases instead of after cases. I mean, it's bad to fuck people after cases too, but at least when Dean fucks people after cases, he knows that they're not the monster. And Sam keeps insisting, hey, it's not her, I feel fine. And you don't trust me? And he's like, well, yeah, because it could be the siren talking, which is, in fact, a fully reasonable thing to say. And Sam's like, hey, no, like, let's meet up and I'll, like, help you out with the case. Neither of them have really considered who the siren would want them to kill. Maybe Sam was like, it's fine because there's no women in my life.
Yeah.
Right. In fact, this episode, in addition to making Dean aromantic and asexual, also makes both of them trans femme. Dean's like, nope, you are not helping me. Shut up. And Sam's like, are you fucking serious? And he gets so angry and he throws his phone across the room. God. Men will
Maybe
literally...
this is like what Bobby means.
Oh yeah,
like,
you weren't picking up your
didn't
phone
answer
because
the
you
call.
fucking broke it. Yeah. Whatever. I guess they're cheap and they do credit card fraud anyway. But like,
That's true.
does he even remember Ruby's number? How is he gonna transfer it to the new one?
Man, I don't remember my own number. You know your number?
Yeah. And I'll say it right
Well, I
here
have
on the podcast for everyone to prove that I do. No, but yeah, what was your statement?
No, I have 2 phone numbers and I don't know one of them. So you know what? I know half of my numbers. And that's okay.
Okay, you know what? Yeah, I
Just
also
straight up,
only
bro,
know
just
half
be
of my
yourself.
numbers because I don't know my work phone number.
Sam is so angry and Dean calls Bobby, just updating him. And he makes another phone call, this time to Nick. He is asking for his help. So now they're both in the Impala and they're watching Kara, the doctor. Apparently, Dean has explained to Nick that, like, oh, I think these people are getting drugged, but I think it's Kara who's drugging all of them. And also, I think Kara is transforming into all the strippers who told them to kill people. All that crap. Dean is just saying, like, oh, you gotta trust me. And the guy goes, I do, I guess. He hands Dean a flask. The guy has drank from it, and now Dean drinks from it. And then he goes, okay, let's say she is drugging the victims. How do you think he's pulling it off? And Dean goes, you know, like a toxin passed through physical contact. And then Nick goes, or maybe saliva. You really should have wiped the lip off that thing before you drank from it, Dean.
Real.
And Dean, like, realizes what's happening, but he is poisoned, so he can't do anything about it. And then and Nick goes, I should be your little brother. Funniest thing anyone has ever said ever.
Yeah.
And he goes, like, you can't trust Sam. You can only trust me. You should kill him now, so we could be brothers forever. And then Dean goes, hell yeah! Have we considered that maybe they're just looking for excuses to kill each other so bad it's unreal?
Yeah, it's possible. Because it's
maybe.
Like, yeah, like, the siren, like, really played the long game with those other guys. But, like, this is just, like 5 minutes work. Inside the motel, Sam comes in and Nick is right there. And Sam's like, huh? And then Dean ambushes him and holds a knife to his throat. Sam says to Nick, I gotta tell you, you're one butt ugly stripper. Which, like, I think he'd be fine at a gay bar. He would get tips. Sam's telling Dean, like, hey, fight this, please. Whereas Nick is like, hey, like, why don't you just give him a little nick on his neck right there? And Dean does. He keeps talking and he says that he gave Dean what he needed. He says, it wasn't some bitch in a G-string. Love that. Great. And then he goes, it was you, a little brother that looked up to him, that he could trust. And now he loves me. He'd do anything for me. And that kind of devotion, watching someone kill for you, it's the best feeling in the world. We've discussed that this is a bad explanation. And then Sam goes, is that why you're slutting all over town? Would he say this?
I mean, he did, so.
Yeah, and then Nick is like, well, I got bored, and I want to fall in love again and again and again, which, you know, really starts undermining the brother thing, like, right away. And, you know, Sam calls him a needy, pathetic loser, and then Nick squirts poison right into his mouth, and he's like, okay, you two go fight to the death and scream and whatever, and whoever survives can be with me forever. We don't really know what Sam wants from Nick. You know, like, okay, like, Sam's fighting, but, like, why does he want to be with Nick forever? Like, what kind of
because
role
he's
is
been
Nick
poisoned
playing for him? No, I know, but, like, doesn't the poison also, like, make you think that this is someone that you, like, doesn't it at least draw on, like, your own desires in some way? Or, like, is it just truly nothing here?
I think it's just whatever.
Okay. It would be interesting to know what Sam wants the most from a person.
Apparently what Sam wants the most from a person is a person who gives him permission to kill his brother. And you know what? Good for him.
Yeah. Dean's like, the Sam I knew is gone, and it's not because of the demon blood or the psychic crap. it's because you've been lying and keeping secrets, like calling Ruby and shit, and you're hiding things from me. We used to be, like, a team and have each other's backs, blah, blah, blah. And then Sam's like, oh, well, you know, the real reason I didn't tell you about Ruby and our hunt for Lilith is because you're too weak to go after her, and you're holding me back. And I'm a better hunter than you are. I'm stronger and I'm smarter and I can take out demons you're too scared to go near. Which we haven't seen. We haven't seen any of that in season 4. Right? Have we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, most of it is, like, not important to Dean's journey, so they don't show it. Also, I'm so fascinated that the thesis statement for Sam and for Dean is, like, you don't trust me, you don't love me enough, etc., etc. And for Sam, it's like you're
skill
a
issue.
loser, Dean. You have a skill issue, and I'm too tired to compensate for your lack of ability to be a good hunter.
I know! It's so devoid of any lead up or any evidence or any emotion. I don't, like, do they just decide this episode's gonna be a Sam episode or this episode's gonna be a Dean episode, and then they just, like, go, like, whatever, I don't care about the other one's characterization? Is that just how Supernatural is written?
I think it may well be.
This is the woman who wrote Metamorphosis, like, 10 episodes ago. And, like, Sam stopped the car and yelled at Dean, and it wasn't about him being a bad hunter. It was, like, a genuine emotion of, like, you make me feel like shit by, like, acting in certain ways. Like, why couldn't that have been here?
I mean, it could have been, like, both of them being like, you don't trust me because...
Yeah.
Like, I don't trust you because you don't trust me. And, like, you don't trust me to do the good thing. And, like, to know what's right. And, etc., etc.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe... Okay, I don't know. Should we explore the world where we take this at face value and this is truly Sam's number one issue with Dean? Because there is evidence for it. Like, I know in the panic room, like, isn't there the scene where Mary comes to him and she's like, you're stronger and better than Dean and you have to get out and go after, like, Lilith. So, like, this is something that they've been trying to develop this season. Not well, but they've been trying. Right?
Sam thinks he's better than Dean.
Is, I think, something that they've been, that they're going for? I still don't see it. Like, maybe is he getting arrogant this season? Is that something that's... It's just so many of these episodes are just generic case episodes where they just give each of them a random role. I guess, okay, you know what? Okay, I think maybe the only moments I can point to are, like, in 407 when he tells Dean to, like, stay behind and help the kids while he goes and confronts Sawin. Like, that's different from their usual dynamic. And then in Family Remains when he tells Dean to remain with the family as he goes to check out the attic or whatever. But, like, I don't know, like, so the generic case episodes, it's just, like, each of them are, like, give themselves random jobs, and it's, like, not really a big deal who does what, and it's not really clear who is better or worse. Like, maybe if he, like, rubbed it in more about how, like, the uncle died while Dean was supposed to be protecting him or something like that. Like, I could see it, but I just don't, I don't know. Like, this is something that's being told to me, but I am not feeling it. Sam's like, you're too busy sitting around feeling sorry for yourself, whining about all the souls you tortured in hell. Boo-hoo. This is how I act and talk about Dean as well, unfortunately. And then they start beating each other up. I don't know. It's just a fight scene.
Do you recall why Sam was mad at Dean in Asylum? Because this is, like, similar vibes, right?
Yeah, I think it was
Why
about
was
like
that?
being at John's beck and call.
I think it's like Dad used to boss me around and now you boss me around.
You're following Dad's orders like a good little soldier because you always do what he says without question. Are you that desperate for his approval? The difference between you and me is that I have a mind of my own. I'm not pathetic like you. So, okay. There is a bit of a...
Sam really has like a superiority
Superiority
complex thing. Yeah.
I can see it sort of in Asylum, but like that's quite different from like I'm a better hunter than you. Like I think like I'm willing to question Dad is like that's something that I can believe that he feels superior about sometimes. But like about being a better hunter, I don't see it. It's not happening.
I mean, he did bring up that, like, in his stint in hell, Sam was able to save more, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So I guess...
Okay. The pieces are there, but I don't think they've provided us with glue. It's just not something that's been emphasized, and Supernatural's not very good at subtlety, so I just assume that things have to be emphasized before they matter. Eventually, Dean gets the upper hand. Sam's like on the floor and Dean's like getting an axe to kill him. And he's like, oh, now who's the better hunter, basically. And he swings at Sam, but he is stopped by Bobby rushing in. He gets Dean in the shoulder with a knife to like get some blood. And then Sam starts like yelling, no! As Bobby throws the knife at Nick and it kills him. Goodbye, Nick. So, like, Bobby thinks they're gay.
Bobby definitely thinks they're gay.
Because they did not explain, like, no, he wanted to be, like, my little brother.
God. Good for them. Well, the episode ends with Sam and Dean and Bobby yet under another bridge. Bobby like gives them soda and he's like, well, you can't drink, you're driving. And it's
so
like
true.
when has that ever stopped them before? But
Never.
You know what, I'm glad they're stopping now. Bobby like berates him a little bit about like, oh, you should have picked up your phone. And then there's just this really awkward like pause, and then he goes, "Are you guys gonna be okay?" And and Sam and Dean are like, "Yeah, we're good, yeah, we're fine, yeah, nothing's ever wrong in our life." And Bobby is just like, "Okay," and then turns around back at them before leaving and says, "Those sirens are nasty things. There's no reason to feel bad that they got into you." And as he leaves, Sam and Dean continue sipping their sodas. And Dean goes, "Are you gonna say goodbye to the doctor? To Kara?" And Sam's like, "Yeah, no. What's the point?"
Like, to be fucking polite. To be polite. That's the point.
Yeah. Well, Sam goes, "Hey, Dean, I didn't mean the things I said." And Dean is like, "Yeah, me too." And Sam's like, "So it's okay?" And Dean's like, "Yeah." And then that's how the episode ends. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, at least Dean will never bring up that Sam called Ruby again because it's all forgiven now. And he says he didn't mean it. So, there. A win overall.
Yeah. Well, what is our overall thoughts in this episode?
I
I think it's not that bad, but also definitely not good. Oh my god.
Yeah, I feel like my thoughts on this episode are encapsulated by 3 texts I got from Danica while I was complaining about it, where she goes, "Can't believe this is literally the Dean is gay for that guy F and it's still boring." Followed by, I mean, I know it's also the Dean is a misogynist F, but still. And then a few minutes later, presumably after she reread the summary, God, kind of Wincesty episode, huh? And, yeah.
Yeah. Best line, worst line.
Oh. I mean, I'm assuming your worst line is the I read, because you spent so long complaining about it.
Okay, sure, yeah, that can be my worst line.
I think that Nick and Sam are both very mean to strippers in the last scene, and it seems unkind. Don't like it. So I guess those are my worst lines.
You know what? I actually really like the line where it's revealed that the flask is like he's getting poisoned through the flask. I like that. When he goes, "You really should have wiped the mouth of that thing, Dean." I was like it was very effective in being like, oh no, that feeling. And like I knew full well what the twist was, and yet I still felt it. So I don't know, I like that line.
Okay, cool. I'm scrolling through the entire transcript, desperately trying to find a single moment I thought was good. Yeah, no. I'll just go with yours, because... Oh, wait, no, Bobby was funny. Maybe when he was like, the next time you want to waste my time with stupid questions, don't. While he's in the Kiss the Chef apron, what a fun look for him.
Yeah. Well, spread those sheets.
All right. Well, I think there is some misogyny.
Yeah.
How much misogyny?
The thing is, okay, the misogyny is not that there are strippers in the episode.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we were, like, when we were starting the podcast, we would, like, explain every single thing, But, like, now we would do this thing where we just assume everyone has listened to every single episode of everything we've ever said and done.
Yeah, and then every time I stop and say, okay, they understand what I mean by it.
Yeah. But, like, that's not the issue. The issue is that Supernatural literally only has 2 types of women in their head.
Yep.
And, like, every time they do a woman, it's like... I mean,
what if we just
didn't?
Like, the mere existence of women.
I don't want to be like the mere existence of women and the supernatural universe is misogynistic.
Well, yeah,
But
well, they're gonna have better women. Like, we're gonna meet Claire.
Yeah.
And, like,
Claire's
Eileen.
the best.
And,
Eileen,
like, a lot
love
of
you,
people.
girl.
But currently...
Charlie!
The one-off... Yeah, currently the one-off women... in Supernatural are truly Logan Roy dreamed up.
This could have been like an opportunity for them to, I don't know, talk to one of the strippers. And they don't. Like, all of the strippers in this episode are literally just for set dressing and decor.
Like 10 women just to like be part of montages as like unts music plays and they twirl around.
And it's like, I mean, the reason why we don't even explain anything anymore is like the explanation is pretty much it's supernatural.
Yeah.
But it still is the explanation in this episode.
Yeah, it is unfortunate that it's supernatural is the explanation, but like, I don't know, it would just take too much time for us to like be how we were in season 1.
Yeah,
like everyone knows everything already. I mean, this is the great normalization desensitization project that shows like this undergo, and it sure does work a little bit. All right.
Okay.
So...
Before we tackle the homophobia, let's
Oh wait,
get
how
into
much
the racism.
misogyny points did we want?
Maybe
2, 1 or 2? 2? 1, 2?
2, yeah.
Okay. Racism. Well,
I don't think there's much of it.
Yeah,
I don't think
like,
there's anything
like,
that
the one-off
warrants
thing
a point.
about Jasmine, but I don't think it, like, matters that much. It does bother me that Dean's, like, one of them is 5'9" and has red hair, and also the other one's Asian. These are equally descriptive descriptions. But,
like, also, like, okay, do white people name their kids Jasmine?
let's see. The one Jasmine that I knew in grade school, I think, was Latina.
Every Jasmine I know is Filipino by virtue of everyone
every
I know is
person you know.
pretty much Filipino. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Oh wait, I know another Jasmine, and yeah, she's Asian. Yeah. So I don't know any white
'Cause, like,
Jasmines.
In the full context of the episode, where all of the names of the strippers are of Disney princess names, it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, having one named Jasmine is okay, but like when the episode was starting and we just learned like Jasmine, and
Yeah, and Dean's
like,
like, oh, like,
Sam goes, like,
obviously
it's
stripper name.
yeah, that did like put me out a little bit.
Also
but
did
like
feel a little
in the
uncomfortable
fuller
about that.
yeah, in the fuller context of the episode, I guess it makes more sense. But in that specific moment, before we got the full context, I was like, well, why?
I don't know.
Many
Yeah,
people are named
the
that.
idea of stripper names is just an odd thing to me, because I feel like a lot of the
Yeah.
names that are considered stripper names are, like, more common amongst people of color. Like, I don't know. Like, my sister
Yeah.
was possibly going to be named Cherry, and my mom has a Chinese friend named Candy. And, like, I don't know. Like, that's, like,
Oh,
language
yeah.
barrier and cultural things and, like, whatever. But also, like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, the concept
Yeah, I feel
of
like-
stripper names feels classist
Yeah,
and
like-
racist a lot of the times.
Yeah, but you know what? I won't count it. I'm not gonna give it a point. I just wanted to point that
Alright.
out because
Yeah.
I did like have a reaction to it while watching.
Yeah, same.
Like the concept, especially because like I understand that most white Americans do not name people after food, but that is like quite common in other cultures, you know?
Yeah.
Like what you said about cherry. I know multiple cherries in my life. I know multiple candies. I know an apple. You know, like it's like people are just named that, and I'm not. These are not like nicknames, but they have a different legal. Like no, these are like legal names. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Homophobia.
that's the kicker. What is
Huh.
it?
Like, is it like it is, but it's not?
It can be, but it's not.
Yeah.
They make no acknowledgement of homosexuality in this episode.
Yeah.
Even though there is like aspects of it in it. And also like surprisingly it's kind of like gay positivity. Like
It's-
Bobby
yeah.
being like accepting. Also, there's this like context of like this guy tricked you into falling in love with you. And you know what? It's not your fault. It's like I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
That is incredibly funny. You're right. Him being like, I don't feel bad about falling for it, is literally like, hey, it's okay if you, like, fucked a guy. Like, you weren't in your right mind.
Exactly. This is exactly the vibe.
Man. What an odd relationship these three must have after this episode.
I'll give it a 0, honestly.
Okay, if you say so. Alright, it's a 0.
Happy 0.
Alright, IMDb? I have no fucking clue.
IMDb. This has got to be a low 8s. 8.3.
Alright. I feel like every time I've gone higher in the past, I've been burned, so I'm gonna go with an 8.2. Well, okay, I don't. This is like sort of a famous episode, though. Like, aren't some people gonna like enjoy the Whatever. No, I'm just gonna stick to my guns. I'm gonna say 8.2.
And you've been burned yet again. It's an 8.4.
Fuck. All right. Great. Love to hear it.
What the hell is this review? I love it. It goes, another good episode. Sex and violence seems to be the staple of any show on TV today. I believe sex and violence grabs the viewer's primeval urges. I found sex and violence in this. I love it. This is how every reviews should be written.
Yeah, truly trying to match a word count that no one else is maintaining.
They should, this one points out that, like, it's nice to see the boys crossing paths with another FBI agent, even if they were fake.
That's true.
And they use gender-neutral pronouns for the siren. I love that.
Love that, yeah. Right, the one that says the word sex and violence again and again, yeah, it mentions that. They like the plot twist because, yeah, they said Dean is an alpha male that has no problem meeting women, but real friendship with men is difficult, which is something that we pointed out with, like, After School Special, right? So, this is maybe this comes, like, right after School Special, right? So maybe it is like an emotional continuity thing. Yeah, this person points out that Dr. Roberts reminds them of Madison.
I mean, they do make a direct comparison in the episode, so.
They do. This person has just a paragraph defending By Dean.
Yeah. And like how it's not a Wincest episode.
Oh no, there's 2 different reviews about By Dean. I think the character could be bisexual but never went there because, as we can see, the guy has some toxic masculinity in him. All his digs at Sam are, you're a girl or gay. So true. It's entirely possible, but come on, not because of this episode. If this episode is to be taken that way, it doesn't mean Dean is bi. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And they end it with, that's it. No sick Wincest.
No, exactly.
Real. Yeah, no, it's an earlier... Cubs and Culture, who's the person who talked about the homoeroticism in Chris Angel, is one with, like... Who's saying again that there's queerbaiting regarding Dean, and that he has a lot of homoerotic relationships with men, which, yeah, I suppose so. You know what we'll be watching next week? Not Supernatural.
Yeah, we should say goodbye. Goodbye, everyone.
For
I don't even know how this works.
Months.
That's it for this episode of Busty Asian Beauties. Next week we will be discussing season 1, episode 1 of Good Omens.
Omens in the beginning.
Subscribe to us.
Yeah, subscribe to us.
Also, the name of a supernatural episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the Bible. People really like those words.
There are many words in the Bible.
It's true.
Yeah. There's a famous Filipino song that, like, directly quotes the Bible. Mm-hmm. And it is the only Bible verse I can recite in full.
Ooh, what is it?
Thank you, Yang Constantino. It goes, love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it is not rude, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no records of wrong. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres.
Nice. Yeah, that's from Corinthians, right? It's pretty common in wedding vows.
Yep.
And it's in
It
Mary
is.
Lambert's She Keeps Me Warm.
Oh my god. That's a lesbian song, right?
Yeah.
Good for the lesbians.
Good for the lesbians.
I was corny as hell though. Sorry, lesbians.
It's from a different era. I feel like they're like the things that like I needed to see in middle school and like cry over in my little room by myself are like the things that I would find corny today.
I never cried over anything in middle school. Partly because we didn't really have middle school. But, you know, that's a story for another day.
Yeah, sure is. And that story will be on the podcast feed of Rubbish and Probably a Podcast. Not here. Goodbye.
Not here on that pod.
Not here.
Okay, well, I don't know. You can subscribe to us and shit. Okay, if you subscribe to us on Tumblr, we'll be there no matter what.
Oh, yeah, we're sticking, So follow us on social media. We are gonna still be on Twitter at twitter.com/beautiespodcast, though
We're still not gonna be
but
on
we're,
Twitter.
we're gonna continue not being on Twitter at twitter.com/beautiespodcast, and we're gonna continue being on Tumblr at bustyasianbeautiespod.tumblr.com. Our official tag is BabPod. Do we need a new tag for Rubbish and Probably Our official new tag next week will be Rubbish Pod. And yeah. Thanks to everyone who's donated to our Ko-fi, which will still be at ko-fi.com/bustyasianbeautiespod. And check out our merch, which will still only be Supernatural merch at babpod.redbubble.com. Though, I don't know, maybe I'll Venmo our artist some more money and have her draw things. Who knows?
Who knows? Leave us a rating. Something. But that's not the part.
You can
It's
email us
at bustyasianbeautiespod@gmail.com. Also, if you're gonna email us about the Goman stuff, it's still in there. Because I don't want to check the other email. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Man, hearing you read that reminded me of why I don't read fanfiction anymore.
Yeah.
I can barely read books that have like a third person. You know how like people who read fanfiction are like, if it's in the first person, I ain't reading it. Well, if a book is in the third person, I'm not reading it because it reminds me too much of fanfiction.
No. I mean, didn't we? I had a fanfiction era where I only wrote in second person. Is that something that happened? Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why. It just felt the most natural to me at a certain point in my life.
Also,
anyway.
Like I need everything I read to feel like a diary entry no matter what, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess first person is necessary for such
Yeah.
aesthetic.